Pros, save more on the materials you need to get the job done inside and out at Lowe's. Right now, get 10% off in-stock Trex Naturals decking, now available in more styles. Plus, get 15% off select custom entry, interior, and storm doors. Then, we'll deliver it all straight to your job site to help keep your jobs moving. Get the brands pros trust, priced right, and ready when you need them. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 5/27. While supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Well, hello, everybody. Once again, it's Lynda Lippin here for episode 3 of the Pilates Goddess Private Podcast. And today we are going to start to introduce the intermediate reformer. So the last couple of episodes, we have taken a deep dive into the beginning reformer exercises. And I am kind of going to separate the intermediate work into really the exercises that I would introduce next for clients. And I'll explain kind of where they come in the order and why I choose those exercises. And then, separately or next, after this series, I'll merge in the rest of the intermediate series. So if you're listening to this one and you're like, wait, what happened to rowing? Rest assured, rowing is coming as an intermediate exercise, but not necessarily what I would introduce next. So the exercises that I think are best to add once we move into the intermediate work are exercises that are still relatively simple in movement, right? So that once again, there's not a ridiculous amount of choreography to remember or to, take away from the focus of the exercise. We can add that later on. Exercises that focus a little more on extension and working prone, and exercises that focus a little bit more on balance, on standing work, and on weight bearing through the arms. Okay, all of these are now important skills, but once again, we work them in a safe way, and we merge them into the series in a way that is easier for our clients to understand. Now, an intermediate mat, we have already introduced the extension exercises. So your clients should already be doing single leg and double leg kick, and that's going to help them with some of the exercises coming up. So we do the regular reformer mount, right? Like that we learned in beginner. We go through footwork. And if you feel like your clients might be getting a little bit bored with footwork or a little unsure why you're still doing footwork, just get them on the reformer, start having them do the footwork, start to slowly cue them into getting the sacrum heavy, opening the collarbones, getting their breathing steady, getting full range of motion in their knees and their hips, lengthening up through their breastbones on the stand, maybe holding the straight leg positions, for 2 or 3 repetitions and holding them at the top and having your clients just kind of stand on the reformer on their backs and breathe before they come back in. Use footwork not just as an exercise series, which of course it is, but as a way for your clients, especially if it's a reformer only class or a class where you're doing reformer first, that your clients are getting, back into their bodies. They've been out, they've been doing stuff, they've been walking in their car, on the subway, at work, doing whatever. Or they just got up and, threw down whatever their morning beverage is and ran over to the studio. And footwork is the place to kind of find where your back is, feel where your body is, notice if anything's a little achy today. Maybe you slept wrong, maybe something feels a little tight or weird. And, you can start to notice that and work on that in the footwork. Then we go into the 100. Again, at this point, maybe your client's legs are a little bit lower for the 100. Maybe they're able to keep their collarbones a little more open for the 100. The abdominal muscles are really pulled in and up. Again, they've, warmed up the lower half and the torso, and now they're warming up the upper half, the abs and the torso. So, work that. Now, after the 100, we go into the regular short spine. Now, here's the deal. I often, for many clients, put short spine into my second category of exercises that I introduce later. And that is because I work with a lot of clients who are flexion intolerant. They have osteoporosis, they have cervical disc herniations, they have, stuff going on in their shoulders. So they're not really doing a lot of that rolling up onto their shoulders. One way that you can introduce at least that movement here without the spine movement, okay, is to leave the headrest up, bring the feet into these shorter straps, and then just do the leg portion of the short spine. And what I mean by that is the spine stays down, the sacrum stays heavy, and you frog, you push the legs out, to a place you could support about 45 degrees. You let the legs travel up to a place where your hamstrings are getting a stretch, but you can keep your spine long and your sacrum down and pull down into frog. So you're going out, you're still going out, up and frog, but we're not moving the spine. You can also reverse that here. You can go straight up, press down, frog in, straight up, press down, frog in. Once again, it's not easy. You're back on that same 2 springs that you are for short spine. But if you're teaching a mixed level class and some people are doing short spine, you want to offer your flexion intolerant clients something here. And I don't necessarily recommend doing just frog and leg circles here because we're going to want to put them later in the series instead of long spine. Okay. So, ordinarily we would introduce short spine here, introduce long spine in the later series. But, oftentimes I will just do the leg only version of that short spine. Right after short spine, we slip the straps off the feet and we take a hold of the handles. Now, here's the deal. I think I said this in the last series, but if I didn't, you have it now. If you're working with double loop straps, then what I recommend you do is use the shorter loops for feet for short spine and for this work, longer loops for hands always, because remember on a classical reformer, the handles are longer than the leather strap where you would be putting your feet for short spine and for some other exercises. And then use also the longer loop for long spine for leg circles and frog. And that way you're mimicking the classical reformer. Now, obviously, if you're teaching, at a chain Pilates studio and there is a corporate standard to how you're using those loops, and you've been trained to use longer loops or longer loops for feet, shorter loops for hands, obviously you will continue teaching that way. All I'm asking is in your own personal practice, if you are working with the double loops, to just try doing it the other way with feet in the short loops for short spine, and then using long loops for hands and long loops for long spine, leg circles and frog, and just see, how that feels. Now, we hold on to those handles or those longer loops, and we're getting ready for coordination. Coordination of this next series is probably the most intensive exercise in terms of choreography, because we're moving the arms and legs together and then we're moving the arms and legs separately, and this always confuses clients. So we're starting with the head wherever you have your head for the 100. So flexion intolerant, the head is down, the headrest can be up or down. At this point, if you've done full short spine, your headrest is down, right? Because anytime you roll the hips up into any inversion, your headrest has to be down, or you're going to super stress that cervical spine. But if you've only done the leg portion of short spine, your headrest may be up. It doesn't matter right now. So for coordination, your elbows are bent 90 degrees. They're close to your rib cage. Your upper arm is on the mat. Your elbow is on the mat. Your knees are pulled in towards your chest. Heels are together. Knees can be apart so that you can keep the sacrum heavy and maybe get a little more hip flexion and knee flexion if you can. You inhale. Arms and legs move at the same time. You straighten the arms down to the mat. You reach the legs out to a place you can support without your back pitching forward and away. You hold your breath. You moved on an inhale. You open your legs. You close your legs. You exhale, pull your knees in first, keeping the heavy sacrum, and then bending your elbows second. You do it again. You inhale, go out, both legs open, close, exhale, knees bend in, elbows bend second. A cue I like to use that my clients tend to actually remember and use is coordination is like a bad date. The arms and legs go out together. The legs open and close, and then the legs come home separately. They go out together. The legs come home first, always, because the date is always bad and it's on a time loop. So whatever your legs are doing when they're out there, and later on, we can advance coordination or vary coordination by adding things other than the open close. Number one, you can add multiple open closes. You can open close 3 times, bend the knees, bend the elbows. You can go out, you can crisscross your inner thighs. You can do that, 10 times, bend the knees, bend the elbows. You can go out, you can just beat the heels. You can go out, you can lift one leg up and lower one leg like a scissor. Come back in. Okay, there's options here for what your legs are doing. I've also taught and seen the variations where you go out, arms and legs, you open one leg out to the side, the other leg out to the side and back in, and knees and then elbows. But the basis is always the same. The arms and legs go out together on the inhale. You hold the breath while the legs do their thing, and then you exhale, knees in, elbows in. If the upper body is up, it stays up. If it's down, it stays down. and that's coordination. Then we move to swan on the barrel. Now, I'm also going to give you a version on the reformer that is completely doable, is classical, but that you can do, you know, on any brand of apparatus and enjoy. If you're in a full studio and you're going over to the high barrel, then your feet are on the ladder. Toes are on the lowest rung, typically, with the heels on the rung above, and you can put a pad under you or your client's feet, under the ball of the foot specifically. Your thighs are against the front of the barrel. You're kind of wedged in there. Your lower leg is parallel to the floor, and your upper body is draped forward over the barrel. You inhale, press your thighs forward into the barrel, start to reach out with your head and your chest, lifting up, 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 up until you're right up to the ceiling. And then you take a big stretch back toward the wall, lifting up out of your hips, out of your pelvis, opening your chest and your collarbones, and taking a back bend toward the wall behind you. Then you're going to shoot forward like Superwoman or Superman, straightening your legs, reaching your head and your chest, super straight body, arms next to your head. Then you lift up just your upper back. Your knees might bend a little bit, but you're really lifting up just the upper back, head and shoulders. Go out back to super person, and then scoop your belly up, bend your knees, and slide back to where you started. And then you do that, you know, 3 times, and you go back to the reformer. If you're staying on the reformer, you're going to put the long box on now. And no, we're not doing the advanced swan. Do not worry. You're going to put the long box on. You're going to have your bar up and just one spring on. If you're on a balanced body or a stot, I want a heavier spring. If you don't have a heavier spring, you're going to do a combo, okay, like a red and a yellow. You're going to put a sticky pad or some sticky, you know, matting or padding on top of the box. And then you get on the box with your head going toward the foot bar, with your forehead in line with the foot bar, and your hands on either side of your head. Wide elbows. Get your pelvis settled into the box. Pull your abdominals up and in. Heels can be together if that works for your back. If not, separate your heels a little bit. And then you're going to push the carriage away. You're going to straighten your elbows, pushing the box and your body away from the bar. When you get there, stay there. Inhale, lift up your head and your chest, and lift up into swan, pulling back into your armpits, back into your triceps, pulling the carriage in as much as you can. And then exhale, bend your elbows and lower down toward the foot bar. Do it again. Pressing back to straight arms, lifting up head and chest. This is why you have the sticky pads so you're not sliding. Coming down, do it 1 or 2 more times, then reverse. Hold the carriage in, straighten the arms all the way up, swan. Press back, dropping the chest, bend the elbows, come back in. Do that several times. Opening the shoulders and coming in. Your back will appreciate the extension or the hyperextension of that upper back before we get into the hamstring curls and the pull straps that are coming next. All right, my friends, that is actually it for today. There is a lot happening in this intermediate reformer situation. So once again, we have added, we went footwork 100, and then we added the short spine or legs of the short spine. We added coordination, whatever the legs are doing, the bad date. We added swan or swan on the barrel. And then we are coming into the long box series. All right, so in the next episode, we'll be going through the long box series. Then we have short box, which we've already discussed in the beginner. But I'll talk about some things you can add here or play with here as your clients advance. And we will be moving into the long stretches. All right. I'm going to spend a lot of time in intermediate because I think it is the most important place. This is where we're adding new skills to your clients' toolboxes, as well as new exercises. And it's important that you understand what you're doing, why, and how. All right. I will talk to you next week. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you once again so much for being here. And if you are getting value out of this podcast, please, please, please send your friends over. The link is in the show notes, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.